Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with my boys, PD and Cal. Say what's up, gents.
Hey, what's going on?
Right.
So today we're talking about what are our favorite comics for the year so far. Um, Once again, I have Selector himself and Cal. I'm gonna start off with Cal. Let's see what type of interesting selections that he had for the year so far. Um, Please, Cal, bring it down, baby.
Well, my top books for the year: Action Comics, Superman, and Absolute Power, which was a surprise for me.
Absolute Power.
Yeah,
Wow. I remember the
Absolute
review. I remember you
was.
reviewing it. It was pretty. I did not expect that. I did not expect that.
Absolute Power actually was, I mean, it's 4 issues. I read some of the tie-ins. Well, actually, I didn't read some of the tie-ins. I just read the Superman tie-in. And, it was, if you're grading it on whether or not it executed for the purpose that it was being written for, then yeah, it did exactly that. And it was like an old school romp too, where it starts off in the first issue. It looks like, okay, all hell is breaking loose. What can the heroes do? Then the heroes, try to, you know, recuperate somewhat in the second issue, and the villains like really push them. And then by the third issue, they're like, okay, we're trying to get it together. We're going to try to make one more pushback. And then in the fourth issue, they rally and they win the day. So it pretty much follows that structure. Uh, I was pleased that Oliver Queen wasn't a traitor, even though they had to come up with this convoluted reasoning as for that. But yeah, in terms of effective storytelling, Absolute Power it was surprising, but it was good. And the Superman books are books that I could now recommend to anybody to read. Mark Waid is doing a weekly Superman story. It's about, I believe it's 12 parts, and there's part 10 came out this week. So there's 2 parts left, but it's come out on time. Art by Clayton Henry has been very good, hasn't missed a beat. I think the last issue, maybe the last 2 issues was a different artist, but the story still, it services the story, even though it's not as strong as Clayton Henry's art. But those books, the Superman books right now, are solid storytelling, which is what you need if you want to ratchet it up a notch, which a lot of writers don't seem to get. A lot of times they want to put somebody on the book for name recognition or for some splash, some razzle dazzle, but it doesn't go any. It tends not to go anywhere because it's literally just sizzle, and there's not a whole bunch of stake there. What you do right now is better because you have some good foundational bedrock stories, and then you can go back to, okay, well, we did this work, let's build off of that. And before you know it, everybody who's on the book, or rather everybody who's been reading the book, is they're going to buzz about it, like, hey, this is really good. And then that actually brings some other people into it as well. And I know DC would love to have that, for any book, but especially Superman, where they're like, oh yeah, Superman's hot, and we're not doing something like revealing his secret identity or taking away his powers or whatever other type of gimmick that they've done recently to bring them in. So this is a pretty, this is pretty solid footing. And I have to say I'm pleased because this is the second time in about a 10-year period that the Superman books have been here. You had Rebirth with Peter J. Tomasi and Dan Jurgens, where you had that, and they were building up a good amount of steam, but that got taken out when Bendis was put on the book. And Bendis' stuff was just bad. You didn't think you could really. I'm just happy that they were able to stabilize the books and get them back to a point where I can recommend them again based on the solid storytelling that they're doing. The If DC continues to go this route and doesn't do the ratiocination of the only thing that's going to work is if we do some Batman type stuff or we got to have some event type stuff on the book, then yeah, you could really get Superman to a good place in terms of sales and and visibility amongst readers. But again, they had it with Rebirth. They were clicking on all cylinders, and they sabotaged themselves there. So no guarantee they won't do it again. But as of right now, it's been pretty good. Oh, one other book I'll throw in, all DC. I'm not reading a lot of Marvel, if any. A DC All In. If the Not so much for the first story, but for the backup, which is so Kirby-esque in terms of the art and the storytelling. If you're a fan of Fourth World done by Jack Kirby and you haven't read that, you should read it. That was entertaining.
Interesting. Wow. What about the House of Brainiac? I thought that would have been in it because that was, I think, a tie-in to Absolute Power.
It wasn't bad, but it was a tie-in that didn't really go it didn't go anywhere because it tied into that story, and she wasn't the focus of that story.
Interesting. So that was yours. I guess, PD, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
However you want to do it. You want me to go?
There you go. No problem.
All right, so I would say one thing is checking out some of the GI Joe stuff. I would go with the Larry Hama series, a continuation of the long running series.
Yeah.
Other stuff has been good too. Scarlet, Destro, Duke, Cobra Commander. That series has been kind of wild, and they also have a new series by Joshua Williamson, who was, I think he was doing Superman for a while too. But he's got a series that's coming out that looks pretty nice. So, but definitely, I've been following the Hama series and the art with what's it, Mooneyham. He's been pretty good. They got Andy Kubert on covers and Paul Petier doing some stuff. There's gonna be two sides of the same coin. We're gonna have kind of, since DC doesn't have Elseworlds, they still have Black Label, but they do other stuff in it. It would be the Batman First Night books. This is taking the framework of the first Batman story, where there's no Alfred and was it Bruce Wayne's a friend to Commissioner Gordon, but it used a lot of actor backdrop and movie backdrop stuff, and using the original costume of Batman. So it has a lot of movie type of casting for the characters, and some sort of the stuff you'd see in the movies from the past of the 40s, or like a black and white movie. And it was I've been waiting to kind of see, because I always liked when I saw Batman from the 40s to the 70s, the old Batman stories that Bill Finger and Bob Kane did. So that was really fun to see. Now, to say on the opposite side of that coin, which I was iffy on it because it's a retcon, the Batman and Robin Year One. Now, I was iffy on the retcon because it changes the history of the past of how Commissioner Gordon, became cool with Batman and Robin. In this, the art is just so good. The stories is fun. They do kind of try to ground it with some real life stuff, but the art just pushes it over the top. So I still have to recommend it as one of the best books. So not necessarily for retconning anymore, because Batman has been kind of in retcon land forever. But at the same time, it's just so gorgeous, a series. It's so much fun. And it's like, I don't want to say that to draw into the text, but it's just been a fun series. And lastly, I've talked about it a few times via old episodes. This was a Kickstarter that was a multi-level Nexus by Steve Rude. So it wasn't just a Kickstarter, it was also released beforehand in comic book form. So you got the regular issues from Dark Horse at the comic store. Then you had the collection to say, if you were interested in getting this collected, you could also get that. So it was interesting seeing someone who seemingly mostly worked with Mike Barron and other writers to take his first stab at writing a book. And, it kind of worked out. So that's one of my favorites. I've always been a favorite of Nexus, and that's about it. The only thing, honorable mention is I have been reading the Fantastic Four. There has some stuff that's been iffy, but it's been what I think Scott, what was that guy? I forget his name. Dan Slott was saying the comfort food, not entirely being comfort food, but basically a readable FF, which I've always checked out the book to see if it's okay. And there's stuff I don't like, there's stuff I do, the art's okay, and the characterization is like not spot on, but it's decent. So this is honorable mention. So those are my books.
Okay, cool. That's a big up. Like them. So I have a wide variety of stuff that I've been reading, basically. So the Mighty Marvel comic, I took a Mighty Marvel calendar, the hardcover. I've taken a look at that, and I absolutely fall in love with it. I think it's definitely a big plus for 2025, of course, but it came out in 2024. So if you have a chance, I think you cannot miss it. We did a previous episode on that. I think it's just a fantastic book for anyone who really wants. See, it's a big book, but I mean, when you look through it, you just basically are looking at Marvel history, and it also helps to bring up what happened with the current Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it was at the time, where the people who are now the producers and the CEOs of Marvel and Disney, where they saw some of these characters and how they felt about them. Another one that I liked was from DC was Vampires versus DC. I mean, I think this is like the third or fourth iteration of this long going series. Once again, my man Oliver Queen is the leader of the rebel groups, and he's basically fighting against Barbara Gordon, and it's just going haywire. And you have our favorite guy Damien involved in the mix. So throw a vampire, a really good story. I like it. Going over to keeping the DC mode, probably one of the best comics of the entire year, and people don't give it enough credit, is Absolute Batman. I mean, look, I had some quibbles with it when it first came out, but I've reread it, and then the second issue with Pennyworth being, because remember, this is a Batman who's pared down. He doesn't have any money. He's a blue collar guy. He's had a lot of tragedies, and now you have Pennyworth being not his butler, but who's going against him. So you have Batman versus Pennyworth. I thought that was a very interesting take. That's on my DC side. On my, I can't say Absolute Power, but Absolute Power and Brainiac are honorable mentions on that end. I love the art on both of them. I gotta always say one thing about DC that I like: their art is really consistently good. That's for my take. Going to Image, man, one of my favorite Image comics right now. Waid Rivals. Waid Rivals is basically Transformers in space, and they have like a Cobra. What's the name of that? The female Cobra, not Cobra La. I think her name is Cobra La. But she's like in issue 13 or 14. She's in Void Rivals. You see Transformers in Void Rivals. It's like, they're just throwing the whole Skydance. Is this Skydance? I think it's called Skydance.
Skybound.
In there. So it's a very interesting take, and I really enjoy the whole series going so far. Of course, I also like this one other from Image, and this one is what's it called again? It's a crazy title. When I first saw it was the stupidest thing in the world. It's Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, right? And it's basically you have a samurai woman, and you have a gunslinger, and they both die, and they go into like purgatory, and they get together, and the question is what's happening, how they survive. They don't trust each other at first, but hell is crazy. You have other villains or bad guys living there, and they have to survive and coming together. It's just a crazy premise, and I like what the fudge is going on here, and I picked it up and I enjoyed it so far. What else? You also have for so going over to Marvel, the Ultimate Universe, of course, the Black Panther. Now, I can't say to me it's the strongest of all story, the Ultimate Black Panther story, but I do like the whole thing with Khonshu and Ra. Every time I'm like, I'm not going to read this anymore, it brings me back in. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me read it one more time. I think sometimes story could be a little better. Definitely the art could be a little better, but it's something that just keeps bringing me back in and bringing me back in. And I guess that's Brian Edward Hall that we have to worry about. There's what else is there that I thought was a pretty good. I mean, I've read a whole bunch of different series and stuff like that, but right now those are the ones that just pop in my mind. I would say those. I wouldn't say those are all my top comics. I mean, because I have a whole bunch. I've read like the Berserker stuff. I thought that was going to turn out to be good, but it didn't really. All in the Red Hood. Oh, the Red Hood, another honorable mention. I like what happens is that in Red Hood you have basically the Red Hood goes into the hill neighborhood of Gotham City, basically that they were forgotten. They were like a separate enclave, and he gets involved. I like the whole nitty gritty there. Oh, and the Daredevil, the latest version of it was pretty interesting. I don't think it's as good as the Ship Zardaski, but those are honorable mentions for me. Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah. I'm surprised at the Falling in Love on the Path to Hell. I didn't think that would be your steelo, but dang.
Yeah. I mean, I read Image comics here and there. I like the Franken. I didn't like the. I wasn't too crazy about the what's the name of the guy who goes underwater, breathes underwater, the monster.
The monster, the creature from the Black Lagoon.
did a picture of that. That freaked me
I
out.
was about to say Namor.
And then then they had the vampire, but they're doing the monster verse within the Image comics.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Frankenstein actually wasn't too bad. It was different. It wasn't a different take, but the color of the art just is like what just jarred me a little bit much. So I don't know about you. When I read, I have to also like the art, right?
Mhm.
And so this is one of the things that detracted me from Sandman. The writing could be fantastic, but if I'm looking at the art and I'm like, oh, it's just too jarring, I can't really read it. It's just like too dissonant. I can't get into it. It's just because the art is what draws you into a book, and you'll fall into it. Oh, and one last honorable mention. This is from Assassin's Creed, not Assassin's Apprentice from Robin Hood. This is a book adaptation of a graphic novel. I read the book years ago, and I thought the adaptation. I think this was actually from 2023, but I actually read it in 2024, and it just popped up, and I just put in an order for the second volume that came out in 2024.
So you enjoyed this year. You had a lot of things to enjoy.
Yeah, I think in general there is some stuff that's pretty good, and I thought like the Brainiac series wasn't too bad. It was different, especially with the Lobos coming all over the place. I know Cal doesn't want to hear about it. I didn't like the Brainiac Queen, or excuse me, the what did I call her the last time? I called her the what's that creature from the Star Trek?
Borg.
Borg Queen. That's what it reminded me of the Borg Queen. But thanks, Cal.
That series started off, I thought, very promising. It was very promising starting off, but then it had to peter out because it had to give way to a series that, at the end of the day, really didn't have a lot to do with Superman. So, Failsafe played more of a role, but that was a series more for Amanda Waller being the antagonist. So even if you spend 4 issues with Brainiac, Lobo, Brainiac, Queen, by the time you get to Absolute Power, if you enjoyed that, and I did, you didn't have to read any of the stuff about the Brainiac Queen or Failsafe to enjoy that series. So it was really
Wow.
neither here or there.
I didn't even think of it like that. That's wow. My whole problem with the series, though, I mean, I liked it, but the failsafe character, and probably didn't read enough of the failsafe character, was really something that really had me thinking, like, failsafe, Jesus, failsafe, why?
Failsafe is a meso on ridiculousness. That's pretty much all that is. The whole idea of a meso, I mean, a meso for me is a stretch because you're telling me that you have this android who can approximate the powers of the Justice League, and that would be difficult enough with just say like Green Lantern, let alone Wonder Woman or Superman. But then with Failsafe, Failsafe is pretty much in the same vein, except he's created by Batman as a failsafe against, like let's say one of the people go rogue or something of that. Oh no, failsafe was supposed to be a failsafe against Batman in case he went rogue. And then you look at it, it was like, well, gee, somebody really thinks a lot of himself, doesn't he? Because you would think that a failsafe against Batman would be, I don't know, a bullet or a whole bunch of them, and that should pretty much stop Batman at the end of the day. And the android that he creates to pretty much stop himself can't be stopped, which is their position that, hey, Batman is always going to have like some trick up his sleeve, or he'll find this. Nobody's going to be able to stop him. And if he creates a robot to stop himself, well, it'll be the same thing. It becomes exponentially difficult to justify that type of character when you look at Batman. It just doesn't work for me overall. But, people like, I don't know. I thought they did a bad job with the Meso on the animated Justice League animated series when they were like going to elevate him to godhood. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Amazo in the comics, one, there's different Amazos, and two, he's never shown to be that powerful. At the end of the day, he's still, I don't want to say, he's still an android. It's not, even if he's approximating these guys' powers, you can still defeat him. So, the approach with that type of character, I think, just leads these guys to write themselves into a corner. But he didn't factor that much into the overall story, except as a prop in order so they could, steal the superhero's power. It was really Amanda Waller's story.
Okay, got it. I mean, he was kind of overpowered. That was the only thing that I thought. But I mean, that's the only way that Waller could be cool, be able to defeat the heroes, right? So that was the only thing that I had.
No,
Another
even
comment.
then. No, I say even then. I mean, this isn't and no slight to the Avengers, but this is not the Avengers. this is not the Avengers. It's the Justice League. Excuse me. It's not the Avengers, it's the Justice League. And, defeating the Justice League is not this easy thing to do. These are some really powerful heroes. And these aren't the Marvel heroes where they're going to be bickering with themselves. These guys usually are a pretty functional team. So, the idea that you're throwing these things at them doesn't really, if you know the Justice League, it doesn't really jive. It doesn't really jive. But it was still a good series. It was still a good series nonetheless. I mean, when we did the thing with Secret Wars, and I forgot to say this, one of the things I had wanted to chime in is that Secret Wars should have been in the vein of the Challenge of the Super Friends, where you had the Justice League of America versus the Legion of Doom. But the trouble with the Marvel heroes is that you could easily say it's the Avengers versus the X-Men, and that would be, that's fine. It's normal. You would not say the Justice League versus necessarily like the Teen Titans or the Justice Society of America, that sort of thing. They're a very functional team. So the plausibility of going at them in that particular manner, which was, of course, it doesn't really, it's just difficult to execute because these are some really powerful characters, and the idea that somebody else could approximate that power is it's pretty hard to swallow if you stay with it for too long.
Got it. Okay.
Well, I'll just add in the sense that the fact that I had to slip in the Fantastic Four with a struggle with Marvel comics in general, that there wasn't much from them that I could look at. I really was looking forward to the Wolverine series, but that kind of fell apart. And then I think I was reading the Deadpool Wolverine, but I think I lost track of it. So I had the first issue, decent art, but I'm not sure what happened to it. So I can only give an honorable mention to the Fantastic Four.
Since we're adding honorable mentions, I got to do another image. Ain't No Grave. It's about a female gunslinger who put away her guns to have a family, basically. And
what's the name of the series? Ain't No Grave.
No Grave. It's crazy as hell. And so she finds out she has a terminal illness. She's going to die. So she goes after. She tells her family to go away, and then she takes her gunslinger and she goes after the ultimate incarnation to stop him. And that person is death itself. And it's by Scotty Young. You always see the Scotty Young comics and stuff, art. And this is, of course, none of that little funny little cover art. It's him actually drawing art. And I just love the whole Western motif. And it's just it's not a revenge when she just wants to kill death.
It's a female. It's a female protagonist, right?
Yeah, female lead.
Yeah, I bought a couple of those issues. They were all right. Yeah.
They were enjoyable, and it's the art that got me. And then the thing, I was like, I ain't going to this crap. But then I said, damn, the art is good, man.
Yeah.
So for me, the art is the thing that draws me in. The premise is, of course, gets me to read, to say, all right, is this anything good? And then, boom, the art brings me in. Of course, the story holds me, right? That's how I take the comics. And again, no slant on Sandman. But that's, if I can't, I don't care how good you can read. I don't care how good you can write. If I can't look at the art, I can't understand.
Hey, Mark Waid said they were basically, didn't matter how late the scripts were. The fact that those comic books were they were crying reading the fax machine when the scripts would come in. They were that immense to the people at DC. So
Sandman stuff?
Yeah, they were like, and this is Mark Waid. They were all, it didn't matter that some of the stuff was late. All that mattered that it was just some of the most brilliant stuff they'd ever seen. So
read or seen?
Read in script form. So
I can't get into that crap. that art, yeah. But the stories are interesting, so I mean, it could be much better. So hey, anything else, guys? Any honorable mentions or anything else? Anything you want to see for the future?
Please say. I just want to make sure. Did the book did the only one book come out for Deadpool Wolverine World War III? Was that it? They never got the rest. It was only a one shot. I thought it was a whole series. Oh, it was a 3-part story.
You will know better than me because I didn't read it.
Okay, because I had the first issue. It was a gorgeous issue. I mean, we can definitely end on this, but I just didn't know what happened to it. It was something I was checking out. I just want to see if they put out. Yeah, I guess it came out 3 issues. 3 issues. So I was liking it, but I can't say it's one of the top ones, obviously, because I lost track of it. So you can close it out if you need to.
Okay. So again, anything you guys are looking forward for 2025?
Ooh, that's a good question.
A Superman movie that does $1 billion. Aside of that,
I think I didn't want to even though it came out this year.
On the
I'm,
star.
huh? I'm liking obviously what's it? Absolute Wonder Woman. That's the only thing I can
I've heard
see.
that, Marz. You're not funny.
Oh, you like the note, right? The note. Wish on a
No, he's
star.
over here singing. I'm talking about that with Superman. He's like wishing on a star. Yeah, keep it up.
Oh wow, yeah, I missed that. That was terrible, man. Wow, what a guy. Just
Look, I said I was going to be nice to you all the time, but you two have been dumping on me all through all these episodes, and I can't take it anymore, bro. I can't take it. I got to fight back.
Oh, you're gonna take it.
The good guy's being attacked once again. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm looking out
Who's
for
the good? Who's the good guy?
clearly me. Okay. So
they also have a big edition. They're bigger. This year came out a bigger edition of the Alex Ross Fantastic Four book. Not only do you have this story in it, you have his background on this, you have his pencils, you have his inks, you have some color guides that he did, and all of the Fantastic Four. If you were looking at those Dan Slott books and you didn't want to buy it because of the story, but you love the covers, all of his covers are in this Fantastic Four edition. So
it's funny I didn't like the covers.
okay, yeah, I mean there we go.
It didn't grab me.
Well, this is the first debate we've had on this thing. We almost escaped without a debate on our faves, but
Is that available? Where? So okay, so that's pretty much just an expanded edition of the Full Circle story
from Abrams Arts. Yeah, and I think if you get, it might be. I got it at 50% off. They might still have it. Abrams.
Who's doing it? Abrams Arts.
Yeah, Abrams Arts. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, well, I'm looking for, of course, naturally more Batman throughout the year. I like to see the continuation of the Absolute line, see how that works out. Also, I like to see the continuation of the Ultimate line. They just came out with the Ultimate comic, which I haven't read yet, so I couldn't review it for 2024.
What Ultimate books have you read? You've read Ultimate Spider-Man?
I read the first couple of Ultimate Spider-Man. I tried the first couple of X-Men, which after a while I couldn't do. And look, I'm not knocking anybody. That's your thing. Do your thing. I'm not touching the X-Men, Ultimate X-Men. I don't even know how they can even be in the same universe. But Marvel. That's Marvel's thing to bear, cross the bear. How they're gonna bring that sucker in? But that's
it's Ultimate, so it could be out of the universe stuff.
Right. And so, but the new Ultimate, they had this great Wolverine cover on it. They had a great Fury cover that looked pretty good. And so I had to I'm going to grab it. But I have not had the chance, unfortunately, to read it. I did read the Milestone, the Shadow, what do they call it? The Shadow Cabinet. Interesting, but I think they need to develop that a little bit more for 2024. So I won't say it's an honorable mention, but it was a mention. What else? So I mean, I hope that 2025 will be a bit better with that because they brought all the different characters from Milestone, like Static Shock, Icon, and then they brought them into this Shadow Cabinet, they call it, which is pretty Blood Syndicate, which is pretty interesting. But
another return of Milestone.
Actually, Milestone they keep doing like a lot of series or one-off. They call it like season 1, season 2, and stuff. So I give DC's been doing that fairly the last couple of years, but. I just, to me, there hasn't been a story that really, really popped off the bat.
Yeah, I agree.
It's there, but it's like they're so close. But the fact that they're doing it, and also they just dropped a new Black Lightning, you know, you know, and probably I digress with this. That's probably a whole nother issue we'll discuss another time. But hey, if you like what you heard, give us thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and once again, agree with me. Spinnerack.
We are out.
Out.